Welcome to the Night Watch Records. I am your guide through the shadows of history. Tonight, we pull a file from the coldest, most desolate shelf of our collection. File number 045. Before we begin, I want you to close your eyes. Let the darkness of your room expand, pushing away the walls, pushing away the warmth. Imagine a silence so deep, it feels heavy on your chest. You are no longer in your bed. You are standing at the edge of the world. Here, the ocean does not move. It is locked in a white, eternal grip. The wind here does not just blow. It bites. It screams. It is a place where time seems to freeze, just like the water. This is the Canadian Arctic, a labyrinth of ice, rock, and bitter cold. For centuries, it was the graveyard of ambition. And tonight, we are going to follow two great ships, sailing directly into its mouth. The year is 1845. The location, Greenhithe, England. The sun is shining, but the air is filled with the thick, industrial smell of coal smoke. The River Thames is alive with activity. Thousands of people line the docks, waving handkerchiefs, their faces flushed with pride and excitement. They are cheering for the greatest scientific expedition the Victorian world has ever seen. Floating in the water are two massive beasts of the Royal Navy, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. Names that would eventually become horrific prophecies. But on this day, they represent the pinnacle of human technology. These are not ordinary wooden sailboats. They are bomb vessels. Their hulls are reinforced with heavy timber and iron plating, designed to withstand the crushing pressure of mortar fire, or, in this case, the crushing grip of the polar ice. For the first time, these ships are fitted with steam engines, converted from railway locomotives. They have retractable screw propellers. They have a heating system that circulates hot water through pipes to keep the crew warm. They carry 3 years' worth of provisions, 8,000 tins of preserved meat, thousands of pounds of chocolate, and a library of nearly 3,000 books. The British Empire believes these ships are unsinkable. They believe nature has finally been conquered by iron and steam. There is a sense of invincibility in the air, a dangerous arrogance. Commanding this floating fortress is Sir John Franklin. He is 59 years old, a veteran of the Napoleonic Wars, a man who has seen the ice before and survived it. He is known as the man who ate his boots from a previous, disastrous expedition where he nearly starved. But he is older now. He is looking for one last glory. He is a man beloved by his crew, a father figure who radiates confidence. But not everyone shares this optimism. Captain Francis Crozier, the commander of the Terror, stands on the deck, looking at the horizon. He is a grim, experienced Irishman. He knows the ice better than anyone. While the crowd cheers, Crozier feels a chill that has nothing to do with the wind. He knows that the Arctic does not care about steam engines. He knows that the ice is patient. On May 19, 1845, the lines are cast off. The Erebus and the Terror drift away from the safety of England. 129 men stand on the decks, watching their homes disappear into the mist. They are the chosen ones, the heroes. They sail past Scotland. They cross the turbulent Atlantic Ocean. In late July, they are spotted by whalers in Baffin Bay, waiting for the ice to clear so they can enter Lancaster Sound. The whalers wave to them. Franklin and his men wave back, high spirits and full bellies. That wave was the last time any European would see them alive. They turned their bows west into the white labyrinth. And then, silence. The ships push north. The blue water of the Atlantic slowly turns into a sludge of gray grease ice. The days begin to shorten. The sun, which had been a constant companion, starts to dip lower and lower until it barely skims the horizon. By September 1845, the water disappears completely. The Erebus and the Terror are no longer sailing. They are crawling through a shifting, grinding landscape of white. The captains make a decision. They cannot push further west this year. They find a small, sheltered bay off the coast of a desolate rock called Beachy Island. This will be their home for the winter. The order is given to bank up. The crews work tirelessly, piling snow around the ships to create insulation. They dismantle the upper decks and build a canvas roof over the ships, turning them into warm, wooden catacombs. Inside, it is cozy. The steam pipes hum. The men sing songs, put on plays, and teach each other to read in the schoolroom below deck. It feels like a grand adventure, a long camping trip, but outside the world has died. The sun sets in November and does not rise again until February. For 3 months, they live in perpetual twilight and darkness. The temperature drops to 50 degrees below zero. If a man steps outside without covering his face, his skin freezes instantly. The metal of the ship becomes so cold that it burns to the touch. In this darkness, the first cracks in their armor begin to appear. It is not the cold that strikes first. It is something quieter, something invisible. On New Year's Day, 1846, a young stoker named John Torrington falls ill. He is only 20 years old. He is strong, well-fed, and warm. Yet he begins to fade. His breath rattles in his chest. His mind wanders. The doctors are baffled. They give him medicine, but nothing works. On the first day of the year, surrounded by his friends, John Torrington closes his eyes and never opens them again. He is the first to die, but he is not the last. Days later, John Hartnell, 25 years old, follows him into the dark. Then William Brain, 3 young men, dead in a place where nothing lives. The crew is shaken. They are supposed to be safe. They have the best food, the best technology. Why are the men dying? To bury them, the crew has to hack into the permafrost, ground as hard as iron. They dig 3 deep graves on the desolate shore of Beachy Island. They lower the bodies into the ice, placing simple wooden headboards above them. They do not know it yet, but they are leaving behind the only markers that will ever be found. As they stand by the graves, the wind howling around them, the remaining 126 men look at each other. The invincibility is gone. The ice has claimed its first tithe, and the long winter has only just begun. Summer arrives in 1846, but it is a weak, pale summer. The ice around Beachy Island fractures just enough to release the ships. Franklin, eager to make up for lost time, gives the order to sail south, down an uncharted channel called Peel Sound. It is a bold move. He believes this is the final corridor that will lead them to the Pacific Ocean. The engines roar to life, the black smoke staining the pristine white sky. For a few days, it feels like they are winning again. The ships cut through the water, pushing deeper into the unknown. But they are sailing into a trap, a geographical mouth that swallows ships and never spits them back out. By September, the temperature plummets violently. They are off the coast of King William Island, a desolate, flat expanse of gravel and snow. Here, the ice does not just float. It flows down from the polar cap like a slow-moving river of concrete. On September 12, 1846, The ice closes in around the Erebus and the Terror. But this time it is different. This is not the coastal ice of Beachy Island. This is multi-year pack ice, hard as granite, jagged, and immense. It grabs the hulls of the ships in a vice grip. The massive steam engines push and strain. The propellers churn the slush, but the ships do not move an inch. The silence returns. The crew prepares for their second winter. They tell themselves it will be just like the first one. They build the canvas roofs again. They set up the stoves. But the atmosphere has changed. The novelty of the Arctic has worn off. The landscape outside is terrifyingly flat and featureless. There are no mountains to look at, no landmarks to navigate by. Just an infinite horizon of white nothingness. As the sun sets for the long winter night, a new sound begins to torment them. The ice is alive. Under the immense pressure of the ocean currents, the ice sheet squeezes the ships. All through the night, the men lie in their hammocks, listening to the screaming of the timber. The hull groans and pops like gunshots. It is the sound of the world trying to crush them. Inside the ships, the air grows stale. To save coal, they dampen the fires. Condensation begins to drip from the ceilings, soaking their bedding. The school lessons stop. The plays become less frequent. The men start to spend hours staring at the walls or looking at the same page of a book without reading a word. A strange lethargy settles over the crew. They are tired even when they wake up. Their joints ache. Their gums feel tender. They open the beautifully painted tins of preserved meat, their lifeline, and some notice a strange metallic taste. But they eat it anyway. They have no choice. Outside, the wind howls like a banshee, burying the ships deeper into the snow, turning the Royal Navy's pride into two white mounds, indistinguishable from the frozen graves of the island. The sun returns in February 1847, but it brings no warmth. The crew emerges from the darkness, pale and gaunt. They look at the horizon, waiting for the leads. The cracks in the ice that indicate the summer melt. They wait through March. They wait through April. By May, it becomes horrifyingly clear. The summer is not coming. The temperature rises slightly, but the ice remains solid. The Erebus and the Terror are not just stuck. They are cemented into the ocean. They are no longer ships. They are buildings, stationary prisons trapped in the middle of nowhere. Panic begins to flicker in the eyes of the officers, but they look to Sir John Franklin. He is their compass. As long as the commander is calm, they are safe. But in late May, the commander stops appearing on deck. Whispers run through the lower decks. The doctors are seen rushing to the captain's cabin with grim faces. On June 11, 1847, the heart of the expedition stops beating. Sir John Franklin, the man who was supposed to lead them home, dies. The cause is never officially recorded, but the blow to the crew's morale is fatal. They cannot bury him in the frozen ocean. They likely cut a hole through the thick ice and lower his body into the black water below, sliding him into the dark abyss beneath the ship he commanded. With Franklin gone, the mantle of leadership falls to Captain Francis Crozier. Crozier is a realist. He looks at the provisions and does the math. The tins of meat are spoiling, rotting from the inside due to a faulty soldering process that is slowly poisoning the men with lead. The lemon juice, meant to prevent scurvy, has lost its potency. Men are walking with a strange, staggering gait. Their minds are clouding. They are hallucinating warmth in the freezing cold. Crozier sits in his cabin, the wood creaking around him under the pressure of the ice. He writes a note on a standard Admiralty form. It is a message of position, a message of status. But between the lines, it is a message of despair. He seals it in a copper cylinder. He knows the ships will never sail again. The realization settles in his bones heavier than the cold. The Royal Navy is not coming for them. The ice is not letting go. If they stay here for another winter, they will all die in this wooden tomb. He looks at the map. The nearest outpost of civilization is hundreds of miles away, across a wasteland that no white man has ever crossed on foot. But staying means death. Walking is a slim chance, a desperate gamble. And so the decision is made. They must abandon the ships. Good Friday, April 22nd, 1848. The sun is shining brightly, casting long, stark shadows across the ice. But there is no celebration. On the frozen surface of the ocean, a surreal scene is unfolding. The 105 surviving men climb down the sides of the Erebus and the Terror for the last time. They are leaving their home. They are leaving the only warmth they have known for 3 years. Behind them, the ships stand silent and dark, trapped in the ice like broken toys. They look like skeletons of a bygone age, their masts pointing accusingly at the sky. The plan is madness, born of desperation. They intend to walk. They must drag heavy lifeboats mounted on wooden sledges across the rough, jagged pack ice, heading south towards the back river, hundreds of miles away. It is a suicide mission, but staying means certain death. The men harness themselves to the sledges like pack animals. They put straps around their chests, their raw, scurvy-ridden skin chafing against the canvas. And then they begin to pull. But what they carry with them is the true mystery. If you were to look into those lifeboats, you would not find just food or survival gear. In their delirium, in their lead-poisoned confusion, they have packed the objects of a civilized world that no longer exists for them. They are dragging heavy mahogany desks. They are dragging sets of sterling silver cutlery with the officers' initials engraved on them. They are carrying silk handkerchiefs, scented soaps, and slippers. They are hauling curtain rods and books, thousands of pounds of useless weight. Why? Perhaps they are clinging to their identity. Perhaps, in their crumbling minds, holding onto a silver fork proves they are still gentlemen of the Royal Navy, not wild animals dying in the snow. They pull these monuments of their madness over ridges of ice that cut their boots to ribbons. Every step is a battle. The sledges weigh nearly 1,000 pounds. They move a few miles a day, sometimes only a few hundred yards. And every time they look back, the ships are still there on the horizon, black specks that refuse to fade, watching them crawl away. Weeks turn into a blur of blinding white and exhaustion. The discipline of the Royal Navy begins to dissolve into the primitive struggle for survival. The men are transforming. Their gums turn black and bleed from scurvy. Old wounds, healed years ago, spontaneously open up again. Their skin becomes translucent, stretched tight over their bones. They start to look less like men and more like the landscape around them, gray, hollow, and cold. As they march south along the desolate coast of King William Island, they are not alone. They are watched. The local Inuit hunters, masters of this land, see them from a distance. To the Inuit, these men are terrifying. They call them Aglulik, Stririts, or simply the Strangers. They see a column of skeletal figures, stumbling blindly, dragging heavy wooden boats across the dry gravel, mumbling in a language that sounds like the wind. Sometimes the Inuit approach. They offer seal meat, but the encounter is tragic. The British sailors, paranoid and starving, are too far gone to bridge the gap. They trade knives for food, but it is not enough. The column begins to fragment. The weaker men fall behind. They simply sit down in the snow, too tired to take another step. They look at the sky, close their eyes, and let the cold take them. The others do not stop. They cannot. To stop is to join them. The trail behind the expedition becomes a trail of bodies, a roadmap of death. Captain Crozier, now gaunt and desperate, realizes the terrible truth. The map in his head was wrong. The distance is too great. The food is gone, and the madness is taking over. One night, the men set up camp. They pitched their tents, huddled together for warmth. But in the morning, some do not wake up. And those who do, they look at the bodies of their comrades not with sorrow, but with a new, dark hunger. The final taboo. The last line of humanity is about to be crossed. The civilized men who brought silver forks to the Arctic are about to commit the ultimate act of savagery just to buy one more day of life in the white wasteland. Years passed. The silence of the Arctic returned, swallowing the screams and the prayers of the dying men. The snow covered the tracks. The wind erased the footprints. The world forgot, but the ice kept its secrets. In 1859, a search party led by Francis McClintock arrived at King William Island. They were looking for survivors, but they found only a ghost story written in bone and wood. On a desolate stretch of gravel, they found a lifeboat. It was mounted on a heavy sledge, half buried in the snow. Inside were two skeletons. One lay in the bow, the other in the stern. They were wrapped in furs, guns loaded and ready by their sides, as if waiting for an enemy that never came. But it was the direction of the boat that chilled the searchers to the bone. The boat was pointing north, pointing back towards the abandoned ships, back towards the ice. It was a silent testament to the final, crushing realization. After marching for weeks, after seeing their friends die one by one, these men had realized there was no escape to the south. The civilized world was too far. Their only hope was to turn around, to go back to the prison they had fled, to die in their bunks on the Terror rather than in the open snow. But they never made it. They simply ran out of strength and lay down together in the boat, surrounded by their useless treasures. The silver watches that ticked until they stopped, the chocolate they were too sick to eat, and the books they could no longer read. Around them, scattered for miles along the coastline, lay the rest of the crew, bleached bones telling a grim tale. Forensic evidence found centuries later would confirm the whispers of the Inuit. Knife marks on the bones. In the end, the discipline of the Royal Navy had completely collapsed. The men who had set out to conquer nature had been reduced to the most primal state of existence. They had consumed each other in a desperate bid to survive, only to die anyway, leaving their remains to be scattered by the Arctic foxes and the relentless wind. The expedition didn't just fail. It vanished into a nightmare. For nearly 170 years, the Erebus and the Terror remained missing. They became the ghosts of the Arctic, drifting in the imagination of the world. But the Inuit oral history always said they were there. They said the ships were asleep under the water. And they were right. In 2014 and 2016, modern technology finally pierced the veil. The ships were found, sitting upright on the ocean floor, perfectly preserved by the freezing water. The cameras sent down into the darkness revealed a sight that defies time. The Terror is not a wreck. It looks like a ship ready to sail. The glass in the captain's cabin is intact. Plates are still stacked on the shelves. Desks are still organized. It is as if the crew just stepped out for a moment and the ocean froze around them. They are time capsules sealed in the dark, cold pressure of the deep. The mystery of the Franklin expedition is not just about death. It is about the hubris of man against the indifference of nature. The ice does not care about your steam engines. It does not care about your titles or your silver forks. It only knows silence. And now, the Erebus and the Terror have become part of that silence. They are the eternal sentinels of the Northwest Passage, guarding the graves of the men who walked into the white and never walked out. This concludes file number 045. The archives of Night Watch Records are vast, and many more secrets lie in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. Until we meet again, keep your eyes on the horizon, but do not stare too long into the dark, for the dark might just stare back. Sleep well,